Tonight is 27th of August 2011, and we are starting on the Dhammapada tonight. This Dhammapada is one of the most important books in the Buddhist scriptures, and probably the best known. So much so, some people say its popularity has raised it to the ranks of a world religious classic. This is the second book of the Khuddaka Nikaya, and consists of 423 verses in 26 chapters. There are already many translations of it in English, and has also been translated into several languages in the world. And this anthology of verses contains a compendium of the Buddha's teachings, comprising all the essential principles elaborated in the Pali canon, including ethics, practice, wisdom, etc. So let's go into the first chapter. Okay, in the first chapter, chapter 1 is Yamaka Vaga, chapter on the pairs of verses. The first verse, number 1. Mind precedes all states, all mental states, all states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-made. If with an impure mind a person speaks or acts, suffering follows him like the wheel that follows the foot of the ox. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-made. If with a pure mind a person speaks or acts, happiness follows him like his never-departing shadow. These two verses are often quoted. It says, all mental states are preceded by mind. Just like, although it says Dhamma, although it says mental states, we must understand physical states. Although we differentiate between mental states and physical states, they have one thing in common, is that both are also consciousness, because the physical states are defined by these four elements: earth, water, fire, wind. The characteristics of hardness represents earth. Water is liquid, which has a property of cohering together, so liquids. And then third, earth, water, fire is a heat element, or the lack of it. Wind or air is the motion element. So these four things, we analyze it, they are perceptions of movement, perceptions of heat and all that. So actually it's a type of consciousness. So whether it's a mental state or physical state, you can say it's all preceded by mind. For example, if you want to move our hand, the mind must have the intention to move before you can move your hand. So we can see clearly that all mental states are preceded by mind, but we don't see so clearly that physical states are preceded by mind. But we know, like in this world, if people's minds are corrupt, if people do a lot of evil deeds, then the world can change. We went through the sutta on the beginnings of the world in the Khuddaka Nikaya, and you saw or you heard how the world changed according to, as people's greed increased, the conditions in the world became worse, and sickness also multiplied. When greed, hatred and delusion increases or multiplies, then the world conditions deteriorate. So like sometimes people's karma is very bad, then you might have drought, no rain, or sometimes you might have cyclone, hurricane and all that. So because of people's wrong actions, unskillful actions. So mind precedes all states. Mind is their chief, they are all mind-made. So if we have an impure mind, an evil mind, suffering will be the consequence. But if we have a pure mind, or when we say pure or good mind, in Buddhism it means we benefit people rather than harm people. And that happiness follows us all the time. Number 3, he abused me, he struck me, he overpowered me, he robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not still the hatred. He abused me, he struck me, he overpowered me, he robbed me. Those who do not harbor such thoughts still the hatred. Sometimes when somebody does us wrong, if we accept it as our karma, then the matter is over. But some people, when somebody does something not so good to them, then they harbor anger. Then this anger turns to hatred. So people fight because of this. Remember, a few years ago, one of our devotees told me that he had 2 friends, and they were quite close friends. But because of some small matter, one of them was very angry. He came and threatened the other person with a parang, machete. Although he didn't use it, he just threatened him, put the machete on his throat. And then a few days later, the second fellow came with his brother, also with machete, and chopped him up, nearly cut off his hand. So, no, they chopped him up so badly. Then, after some time, he harbored hatred. So, he also waited for his opportunity. When one of the brothers was somewhere, he came with a knife and chopped him so badly, the hand nearly went off. So after that, you see, because of a small matter, 2 friends, their anger can lead to this. And after that, both of them frightened of each other. Don't know who will retaliate again. So all this fighting in the world, all for nothing. Sometimes small matters, we just forget it. We just accept it as our karma. We understand the law of karma vipaka. Whatever happens to us, we think maybe it's something in the past. And it's because of the past karma we suffer now. And then we don't harbor hatred. And then this matter is closed. Number 5. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is an eternal law. There are those who do not realize that one day we all must die. But those who realize this settle their quarrels. So just like a fire, you don't put out fire with fire. You put out fire with water. So if there's a lot of anger, then we counter it with metta, loving kindness. Then only the anger will subside. Also, if you realize that all of us one day must die, and when we die we have to pay for all our actions, good and bad, then we are careful of our karma. If you don't think that one day you're going to die and have to face the day of judgment, then a lot of people live as though they are never going to die. Number 7, just as a storm throws down a weak tree, so does Mara overpower one who lives for the pursuit of pleasures, who is uncontrolled in his senses, immoderate in eating, indolent and dissipated. Just as a storm cannot throw down a rocky mountain, so Mara can never overpower one who lives meditating on the impurities or the loathsomeness of the body, who is controlled in his senses, moderate in eating, and filled with faith and earnest effort. If we uncontrolled in our senses. We always give in to our weaknesses, whether it be sensual pleasures or liquor or drugs or whatever. Then every time we give in, we form a habit pattern, in our mind. We form a habit. So we keep forming that habit. It's like always we are going to that ridge. And the habit pattern becomes very strong. But we make the determination to challenge it. Every time the temptation comes, and then we resist it. We start a new habit pattern in our mind. So each time we resist it, this pattern becomes stronger and stronger. So it's easier. The more times you resist, the more times it becomes easier and easier to resist. But if you always give in, it becomes easier and easier to give in. Number 9, whoever wears the monk's yellow robe while being depraved, devoid of self-control and truthfulness, he surely is not worthy of the yellow robe. But whoever is purged of depravity, well established in virtues, and filled with self-control and truthfulness, he indeed is worthy of the yellow robe. Sometimes we find some people, like monks, they can say very, very nice things, but they don't practice it. So, as a monk, the standard that people expect is higher than lay people. That's why lay people give respect, they give offerings to monks. If a monk is not worthy of the offerings, then he has to pay dearly for it in the afterlife. 11. Those who mistake the unessential to be essential and the essential to be unessential, dwelling in wrong thoughts, never arrive at the essential. Those who know the essential to be essential and the unessential to be unessential, dwelling in right thoughts, arrive at the essential. This essential can mean the essential things in life. And of course the most essential is to reduce our suffering, to, if possible, eliminate suffering. But even in the worldly sense, everybody, we have a lot of ambitions. But the problem is, although we have so much ambitions, want to do this, want to do that, our time is limited. Human lifespan is only 70-something years now. And our energy is also limited. And our blessings are also limited. So, whatever we want to do, we must know our priorities. Set our priorities right. And do what is important. We don't have the time, the energy to do everything we like to do. So I always have to remember that. Just yesterday I got a phone call from one of our devotees who used to come here a few months ago. He's 50-something years old. Now he's got cancer. Never expected that he'll get cancers. He looks a very tough guy. So we never know when the finger of death will come and touch us. So we have to be prepared. A lot of people, sometimes we come into the Dhamma, we meditate and all these things. We try to achieve this and that state of meditation. Sometimes people forget that actually our conduct is more important. Our actions, our karma. Because if you ask yourself, suppose now tomorrow you're going to die, are you prepared for it? If your karma is good, your blessings are enough, and even if death comes tomorrow, you're happy to go because you know you're going to a good place. So when we come to the Dhamma, the most important is to change our skillful karma into skillful karma. Eliminate our bad habits, our unwholesome actions, our unwholesome thoughts and all that, and change for a better, so that anytime we die, we know that we are going to a good place. Some people, they strive very hard, either in meditation or in chanting the Buddha's name or in practice of mantras and all this, but sometimes they forget that the karma is very important. A few years ago, I went to Telok Intan to give a Dhamma talk. And those devotees asked me, there was this old lady who just died a few days ago. And they said she had been chanting the Buddha's name for 30 over years. Just a few days before she passed away, she started crying. A whole day crying. They asked her why. He said, who took away all my clothes? I have no clothes to wear. So she saw herself naked. But everybody saw that she was not naked. So it shows, although she has been practicing Buddhism, but she is not practicing the right way. So she only chant the Buddha's name, but never practice Sila, which is extremely important. The most important are two things, right view and Sila. Sila is our conduct, to practice wholesome actions rather than unwholesome, not to harm others. And then right view is to understand the working of karma, and if possible, Aryan right view, understand the Four Noble Truths, which you can only get by listening to the earlier suttas. And also like generosity, also important. These are basic things that a Buddhist should practice, and not aim for higher things without practicing the basic things. After you have practiced the basic things, you have your foundation in dana, in sila, in right view, then you can practice other things. So if not, when death comes, you are not prepared. Number 13, just as the rain breaks through an ill-thatched house, even so passion penetrates an undeveloped mind. 14, just as the rain does not break through a well-thatched house, even so passion never penetrates a well-developed mind. This well-developed mind, bhavitang, subhavitang, is from bhavana, from the word bhavana. Bhavana is development, and it means development of the mind. And development of the mind means mind where the 5 hindrances are eliminated or reduced. And that only comes about through some samadhi. If you can develop the jhanas, then the 5 hindrances are eliminated. Eliminated means it's cut to such a low level, there is no more a hindrance. Not that it's not there entirely. So if the mind is strong, a concentrated mind, then you are not moved easily by emotions. And passion is one of the emotions. It's a type of emotion. You can say passion is equivalent to emotion, because passion and emotion either it can be passion for sensual pleasures, passion for somebody, or the negative part is the anger. And you cannot get what you want. The desire turns into anger and hatred. So if you allow the mind to be extremely happy one day, then when you are disappointed, then it becomes extremely sad. Another day. So that is just like the rain breaking through the ill-thatched house. But if the mind is strong, then it's like not easily shaken by the emotions. So the rain does not break through. 15. The evildoer grieves here. He grieves hereafter. He grieves in both worlds. He laments and is afflicted, recollecting his own impure deeds. The doer, 16. The doer of good rejoices here. He rejoices hereafter. He rejoices in both worlds. He rejoices and exults, recollecting his own pure deeds. If we do evil, then just when we are about to die, then we know we know the consequences that are coming. Then the mind will be extremely disturbed. There are some people, the last few days before they die, they are always crying. So you grieve here, and the next afterlife, you grieve again when you suffer. Either you suffer in the ghost realm or the animal realm or in the hell realm. But if you do good, then few days before you die, you know you're going to a good place, all the signs are there, then you rejoice. And after you pass away again, you are happy. 17. The evildoer suffers here, he suffers hereafter, he suffers in both worlds. The thought, evil have I done, torments him, and he suffers even more when gone to realms of woe. 18. The doer of good delights here, he delights hereafter, he delights in both worlds. The thought, good have I done, delights him, and he delights even more when gone to realms of bliss. So if we do evil, although sometimes when we do evil, we have a lawyer in our mind giving us all kinds of excuses why we should do it. But later, our conscience will tell us if we have done wrong, and remorse will torment us if we remember that we have done evil, harm somebody, harm some being, then you suffer here and hereafter. 19. Although he recites many sacred texts, if he does not act accordingly, that heedless man is like a cowherd who only counts the cattle of others. He does not partake of the blessings of a holy life. 20. Although he recites few sacred texts, if he puts the Dhamma into practice, forsaking lust, hatred and delusion, with true wisdom and emancipated mind, clinging to nothing in this or any other world, he indeed partakes of the blessings of a holy life. So being able to chant, all that are not so important. What is important is for a monk, is to cut our greed, hatred and delusion. Not only monk, even lay people, and to let go, not to cling to all the things in the world that give us happiness. We must accept it, that we have to let go of everything very soon. So the sooner we get used to it, the better. So we finish one chapter. Let's go to the next one. Chapter 2, Appamada Vaga, heedfulness. 21. Heedfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. The heedful do not die. The heedless are already dead. 22. Clearly understanding this excellence of heedfulness, the wise exult therein and enjoy the resort of the noble ones. So, heedfulness is diligence in the practice of the holy life. And if we practice well, we reach the deathless state. So we do not die. In the Bible, Jesus started to gather his disciples, and he gathered many of his disciples were fishermen. And he told one disciple to follow him. And the disciple said, "Wait, Lord, until I bury this relative of mine." His close relative had passed away, and he thought he has to do his duty to bury the relative. And Jesus told him, "Let the dead bury the dead. I will make you fishers of men." So this ordinary people who do not practice a spiritual path are regarded as already dead, as good as dead, because you don't make any progress in the spiritual path. You are not living as you should. You might as well be dead. So that's what is meant. The heedless are already dead. So we have this human life, which is so valuable, because only here we can make progress on the spiritual path. Even devas envy us if we have the chance to study the Dhamma. 23. The wise ones, ever meditative and steadfastly persevering, experience Nibbana, the incomparable freedom from bondage. So, those who strive on the spiritual path can experience Nibbana here and now. Nibbana is the elimination or total cessation of greed, hatred and delusion. 24. Ever grows the glory of one who is energetic, mindful and pure in conduct, discerning and self-control, righteous and heedful. We read in the previous suttas that a lot of these devas, they, although we don't see them, they know what we are doing. So like those monks who practice very well, here the Buddha says, ever grows the glory of one who is energetic. So even the devas will pay respect. You saw in the sutta sometimes the devas from far away, halfway in the sky, they bow and pay respect to those arahants. 25. By effort and heedfulness, discipline and self-mastery, let the wise one make for himself an island which no flood can overwhelm. So if we put in the effort, heedfulness, discipline ourselves, then if we attain any one of the Aryan stages, then we have landed ourselves on an island and no flood can overwhelm us. We are secure already, safe. Once a person becomes an Arya, even the lowest Arya, the first path, will never fall into the woeful plains again. 26. The foolish and ignorant indulge in heedlessness, carelessness, but the wise one guards heedfulness as his best treasure. This being heedful, being diligent, is the best thing we can do. The Buddha said, there's one thing that can benefit us in this life and in the future life. What is that one thing? Diligence, or heedfulness, putting effort on the spiritual path. But people who are foolish and ignorant, they are careless. They only want to enjoy what is available in the world. So then later they have to pay for it with tears. 27. Do not give way to heedlessness. Do not indulge in sensual pleasures. Only the heedful and meditative attain great happiness. People who are careless like to indulge in sensual pleasures, wine, women and song. And then when they are old, then they find they have spent all their money. And when they are poor, all their friends run away. And they have wasted their body. The body becomes so weak, all kinds of sickness come upon them. No money, no health. And they know they are going to a woeful place of rebirth. That time they will regret. 28. Just as one upon the summit of a mountain beholds the groundlings, even so, when the wise man casts away heedlessness by heedfulness and ascends a high tower of wisdom, this sorrowless sage beholds the sorrowing and foolish multitude. It's like a person gone to the top of a mountain, he looks below, all the people standing below. So when a person advances on the spiritual path and is secure, then he sees all the common people all headed for the woeful plains. But the spiritual path is a lonely path. The Indian saying, the spiritual path is the path of the alone, to the alone, by the alone. 29. Heedful among the heedless, wide awake among the sleepy. The wise man advances like a swift horse, leaving behind a weak nag. This nag is a horse or a pony. So we make effort on the spiritual path, and we make spiritual progress and overtake a lot of careless people. Number 30. By heedfulness did Indra become the overlord of the gods. Heedfulness is ever praised and heedlessness ever despised. This Indra, Magava, must be Sakadeva Raja. In the Sutta Samyutta Nikaya, it is said that Sakadeva Raja, he did a lot of good deeds while in the human realm to benefit people. He built roads, bridges to benefit a lot of people and other good deeds. So he was born as a Sakadeva Raja. 31. The monk who delights in heedfulness and looks with fear at heedlessness advances like fire, burning all fetters, subtle and coarse. So a monk, if he makes a lot of effort, then he destroys all the fetters, all the defilements like fire. 32. The monk who delights in heedfulness and looks with fear at heedlessness will not fall. He is close to Nibbana. On the spiritual path, it's very easy to sidetrack. It's very easy to go backwards, to regress. Very easy to fall. But if we are careful and we are always remembering impermanence and remembering that the woeful plains are always waiting for us until we have attained Aryahood, then we should strive until we attain at least a stage of Aryahood. Then we are secure. So we won't fall.